In a small village nestled among the green hills lived an orphan girl named Halima. She was a simple girl who owned nothing in this world but a tiny hut, a kind cow she named Warda, and a heart as pure and white as the milk she sold. Her parents had died when she was young, leaving her this cow, which became her whole world, her companion to whom she confided her sorrows and her only source of livelihood. Every morning, Halima would milk her cow and pour the fresh milk into a large clay jar. She would then carry it on her head and walk to the village market to sell it. Halima was known in the village for her honesty and her pure milk, but her earnings were always meager. After selling the milk, she would buy some fodder for her cow, a piece of bread for herself, and pay the rent for the pasture where Warda grazed. The pasture belonged to a greedy man named Barakat, who, contrary to his name, knew nothing of blessing. His heart was as hard as stone. He saw in Halima nothing but a source of money to exploit whenever he had the chance. Despite her poverty, Halima had a habit she never abandoned. She believed that mercy toward weak creatures brings the mercy of the Creator. So after selling her milk, she would always leave a little at the bottom of the jar, pour it into a dish, and place it in an alley behind the market for the hungry street cats. She found great joy in watching those frail creatures drink and be nourished from her little share. One week, as life grew harder, Barakat came to her and said, "Listen, Halima, I have decided to double the rent for the pasture starting this week. If you do not pay the new amount by Friday, I will take your cow as payment for the overdue rent and drive you out of this hut." His words struck her heart like lightning. How could she possibly gather such a large sum in just a few days? What she earned was barely enough to cover the old rent. She felt the ground sway beneath her feet, knowing she was about to lose Warda, her friend, and her only source of sustenance. That day, she went to the market with her heart heavy with sorrow. She sat in her usual place with the jar of milk before her, but her face was pale and her eyes full of sadness. As she sat there, a cat she had never seen in the village before approached her. It was not one of the scrawny street cats, but a sleek creature with fur as black and shiny as silk and eyes as green as two emeralds. It walked with grace and pride, like a princess from another world. The cat stopped in front of Halima and looked at the jar of milk, then raised its head and gazed at her with a deep, calm look, as if it understood her sorrow. Though Halima was in desperate need of every drop of milk in her jar, her kind heart would not allow her to turn away this beautiful creature. She said to herself, "Perhaps God will have mercy on me for showing mercy to this weak being." She took her small dish, poured some milk into it, and placed it before the cat. The cat drank quietly and elegantly, then gave Halima one last look, as if in gratitude, before disappearing into the alleys. Days passed, and Friday drew near, but Halima could not gather the required sum. On Friday morning, she milked her cow with tears streaming down her cheeks, knowing this would be the last milk she would ever take from Warda. She carried her jar and left her hut, her heart heavy with farewell. But to her surprise, the mysterious black cat was sitting at her doorstep, as if it had been waiting for her. The cat looked at her, then at the jar, and meowed softly. Halima sighed and said sadly, "Even you want your share on this last day of mine? Very well, for God's provision is not reserved for one alone." She poured some milk into her usual dish and placed it before the cat. The cat drank, and as Halima turned her face to hide a runaway tear, she heard a faint sound, the soft clink of something metallic against the clay. She looked at the dish, now empty of milk, and froze in place, her eyes widening in astonishment. At the bottom of the dish lay a gleaming gold coin catching the rays of the morning sun. With trembling hands, Halima picked it up. Never in her life had she seen a golden dinar before. She looked around for the cat, but it had vanished as it always did. This was no dream, it was a real gold coin, worth many times more than the rent Barakat demanded. Halima held the coin tightly, feeling its warmth spread into her cold hand. It was not just money, it was a promise of a new dawn, a reward from the heavens for a heart that had never forgotten mercy, even in its darkest hours. But who was this mysterious cat? And was this wondrous generosity to happen only once, or did fate hold for her a secret greater than a single golden dinar? Her heart pounded as though it would leap from her chest. She ran quickly back to her hut and hid the coin safely beneath a stone in the cold hearth. Then she carried her empty milk jar and went to the market, her heart singing with joy. That day she sold nothing, yet she was the richest person in the world. When Barakat came in the evening to demand the rent, Halima stood before him with confidence for the first time. With his usual mockery, he said, "Where is the money, Halima? Or has your cow refused to give milk today?" Halima drew the golden dinar from her pocket and placed it in his hand. When Barakat saw the shining coin, his greedy eyes widened and his tone changed at once. "Where did you get this? Did you steal it?" he asked in shock. Halima replied, "God has provided it for me. This is the rent for a whole month in advance, so I ask you not to trouble me again." Barakat took the coin, still dazed, and left, muttering in confusion. From that day on, the miracle repeated itself. Every morning, the mysterious black cat waited at Halima's door. She would offer it a dish of fresh milk, and the cat would drink, then leave behind a gleaming golden dinar before disappearing. Halima's life began to change little by little. She was no longer poor. She repaired her hut, bought new clothes, and purchased the finest fodder for Warda, her cow, who grew healthier and more beautiful than ever. Most importantly, Halima never abandoned her old habit of kindness. She increased her giving to the poor and needy, and even bought milk from her poorer neighbors at higher prices to help them survive. Soon she became known throughout the village as Halima the Generous, but such abundant blessings did not escape the eyes of the envious. Barakat, the pasture owner, watched Halima every day, seeing her life transform from dire poverty to clear prosperity. Suspicion and curiosity gnawed at his heart. How could this orphan girl become wealthy overnight? Surely there was a secret behind it. He resolved to uncover it himself. One dawn, before the sun rose, he crept into Halima's hut and hid behind a pile of straw, watching. He saw Halima come out of her hut, and then the elegant black cat approach her. With his own eyes, he witnessed the unbelievable. Halima poured the milk, the cat drank, and after Halima went back inside, the cat placed something shining in the dish before vanishing. Barakat rushed from his hiding place and ran to the dish. Inside lay a golden dinar, still warm. The fire of greed blazed in his soul until it nearly blinded him. So this is her secret, he thought, a magical cat that gives gold. Such a treasure is wasted on a poor girl like her. I am the one who deserves it. He devised a wicked plan. The next day, he brought with him a strong net and hid in the same spot. When the cat came as usual, before it could reach Halima's house, Barakat leapt out and cast the net over it. The cat struggled fiercely, scratching him with its sharp claws, but he held it fast, shoved it into a burlap sack, and ran back to his house. Panting, he shut all the doors and windows tight. He pulled the cat from the sack and set before it the largest bowl he owned, filled with the finest milk he had bought especially for it. "Drink, beautiful cat," he said greedily. "Drink and fill this bowl with gold." The cat looked at him with her emerald eyes. But this time her gaze was cold and sharp, like the edge of a blade. She did not touch the milk. Instead, she sat in the corner of the room, staring at him in silence and defiance. Barakat waited an hour, then two, but the cat did not move. His patience began to wear thin, and he shouted at her, "Drink, you cursed cat!" "Come on." Yet she remained as she was. Driven to madness, he locked her in the room and snarled, "I will leave you here until you die of hunger and thirst, or give me the gold I demand." Meanwhile, Halima went out as usual and waited for her cat, but it did not come. She waited and waited until the sun rose, but in vain. A cold grip tightened around her heart. She knew that some misfortune must have befallen her mysterious friend who had changed her life. 3 days passed, and Halima did not close her eyes in sleep. Each dawn she would set out a dish of milk and wait, but the black cat never returned. She searched every alley in the village, calling for it until her voice was gone, but there was no trace. On the 3rd day, she sat at the door of her hut, weeping bitterly, not for the golden dinars that had ceased, but for her only friend, whom she feared had come to harm. As she wept, the street cats she had always fed gathered around her. An old, one-eyed cat approached, rubbing against her dress, then began to meow and walk a few steps before turning back to look at her, as though beckoning her to follow. Halima understood the sign. She rose, wiped her tears, and followed the old cat through the alleys. The other cats trailed behind until they all arrived at the house of Barakat, the pasture owner. The door was tightly shut, but from inside, Halima heard angry shouting and furious noise. Inside, Barakat had reached the brink of madness. For 3 days, the cat had not touched food or drink, sitting in her corner, staring at him with emerald eyes that now sparked with a cold fire. That morning, he could bear it no longer. Gripping a heavy stick, he screamed, "Either you give me the gold now, or I will kill you and end this once and for all." At that moment, for the first time, the cat rose calmly and walked with graceful steps toward the bowl of milk, now spoiled. She drank a single sip. Barakat's face lit up with greedy delight. "At last! Now where is the gold?" he cried. But the cat did not place anything in the bowl. Instead, she spat onto the ground a small black lump of coal. Barakat went mad with rage and raised his stick to strike her. But the cat drank another sip and spat out a second piece of coal, larger than the first. With each sip she took, she spat out more coal, and as she did, the fine furniture in Barakat's house crumbled into black dust, the walls cracked, and the gold he had hoarded in his chests turned into worthless stones. His black greed had taken form before his very eyes, devouring everything he owned. Outside, Halima heard the sound of breaking and furious shouting. Fear for her cat gripped her heart. Without hesitation, she pushed the old wooden door with all her strength, and it swung open. Before her eyes lay a terrifying scene. Barakat stood in the middle of a room that had once been beautiful, but was now reduced to ruin. He screamed like a madman, while the black cat stood proudly before him. The moment the cat saw Halima, it ran to her and leapt onto her shoulder. At that instant, everything stopped. Barakat looked at Halima with the cat perched on her shoulder and realized, as if struck by truth, that he had lost everything. He fell to his knees amidst the ashes, weeping, not for the wealth that had vanished, but for the heart he had squandered to greed. Halima left the ruined house, the cat purring softly on her shoulder. She returned to her hut, her heart a mixture of joy and sorrow. She placed the cat on the ground and offered it a dish of fresh milk. The cat drank, but this time it did not leave behind a golden dinar. Instead, it looked at Halima and for the first time spoke in a soft, human voice. "Do not grieve, my kind Halima. I was never an ordinary cat. I am the guardian of blessing, sent from the heavens to test the hearts of the people of this village. In your heart, I found a treasure of mercy and contentment, and so you were worthy of grace. But in his heart, I found a bottomless well of greed, and his punishment was of the same nature as his sin." Halima's eyes widened in astonishment as she listened. The cat continued, "The gold you found each day was not from me, but a reflection of the purity of your heart. My task here is complete, but I will not leave you without a reward for your patience and generosity." Then the cat leapt into the air and transformed into a beam of emerald green light. It flew out the window and toward Warda's cowshed. Halima ran after it and found her cow standing calmly, but the milk dripping from her udder was no longer white. It shimmered with a faint golden glow. From that day on, Halima's cow gave golden milk, a blessed provision that never ceased. Halima lived the rest of her life in happiness and prosperity, but she never forgot her days of poverty. Her hand remained ever open in generosity to every poor and needy soul. As for Barakat, he lived on as a poor outcast, a living reminder to all who saw him that greed may grant you a glittering beginning, but it will surely lead you to a dark and bitter end. And here our story ends, but as every storyteller knows, tales never truly end. So tell us, what lesson did you take from this story? And from which country are you following us? And if you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can live with us through every new story.